Peace. Welcome to the Knowledge Yourself radio show. My name is Teray Allah.
Peace, Jakil Najallah.
Peace, Jarulullah.
And we would like to welcome you back to another broadcast of our show on November the 17th, what we call Now Cipher Victory, Knowledge God. So today's subject is titled, What Makes Rain, Hail, Snow, and Earthquakes? Is Friendship with the Opposite Sex Experimenting with High Explosives? This is going to be one of those shows that I think many of you are going to be talking to your friends and neighbors and everyone else in your life with. But this is definitely not a show for children. Each show, as always, is brought to you by Global Position Solutions. You can contact them at globalpsolutions.net. And please keep up to date on anything that's unfolding through this collective, the Knowledge of Self radio show. You can put in a search for Knowledge of Self Radio.weebly, that's spelled WEEBLY.com. So I just want to reinstate or repeat what our goal is for today. This is basically going to teach you how to be a friend, or in some cases avoid friendships with members of the opposite sex. So, I'm going to tell you right now, we're all going to probably battle it out. I don't know if the guy Jakil may be neutral in this, and we'll have to see, but I know Jarul and I are definitely the contenders in the boxing ring. Ding, ding. So, why don't we go ahead and begin with a quote before we get into the current events. And the quote says, and of course, for this quote today, it's unknown, so thank you, Jarul, for giving us this. It says, quote, "It sucks when you fall in love with your best friend, because when it's over, they are the one person you want to comfort you." Why don't we go ahead and just kind of pass that around the round table? Who would like to go first on that one?
Wow.
Well, to me, it's just like that whole quote kind of captures the dangers of, being that close with the opposite sex. Because, nature will take its course depending upon certain circumstances. And, when it does, things like this occur, so I think it's best to just avoid it at all costs.
Man, that's
I'm not going first.
That's a great quote. At a certain point, you definitely have to draw a line, right? If it's your friend, or if you're trying to be something other than a friend. And I think it's right. It's kind of like that saying you don't want to burn those bridges. And when you cross over that friend zone into something else, you definitely risk burning those bridges. That's a great quote.
Well put. Well, I think for me, it's just that you need to establish what a best friend is, okay? And I think the major mistake that I'm mainly talking to the brothers out there, men in general.
Okay.
When you don't establish with a woman that you are their friend from jump, then you allow yourself kind of to be...
Wiggle room?
Right. It leads to that wiggle room. When you don't establish what your relationship is with a woman who's not your girlfriend or not your wife or your love interest, then that can be really confusing. So then it leaves a space for anything to happen. So as far as your best friend, state it, you're my best friend. Try to have that conversation with a person. But I think everyone out there, and of course everyone here at the table, would agree that we really don't know how long it takes to establish a friendship with a woman if we decide to do that. But all three of us, we really do want to wake up tomorrow morning, considering we have queens in our life. But for the most part, a timetable is important to factor in. You know, like at what point do you say to that person, you know what, I think you're a really good friend of mine. You know, maybe you will have that conversation. I don't know.
Right.
So I know we have some hot current events, and beginning with the Jaquil. So who's watching this, brother?
Oh man. Actually, I'm gonna hit y'all with this other one.
Thank you.
For my gamers out there, or anyone who may be living, let's say, in 1,000 feet of a gamer, the new Xbox One, right, can not only spies on you, but apparently can see through your clothing like TSA scanners. Yeah, so you know, you've got this device that has to always be connected to the internet, right, for it to function, or else it's not going to work properly. Or let's say it's not going to work. And then also it's based on face scanning, right? So it's always scanning who's in the room, what you're doing in the room. So that's one whole thing to it, right? But now you have this other part to where it can see through your clothes. So now potentially you've got data that's going out on the internet of you naked, walking around your house. So, I mean, you know, me personally, I don't care. But, you know, I've got women in the house, and that's definitely not cool. You know, now they have to be neighbors. So that's one aspect to it. Now, where it gets really twisted is that someone who's a little computer curious could potentially gain access to your Xbox One and then be watching you walk around your house naked. So,
So I mean, with something like that, what can we as the consumers, or you know, people who use these games, what can we do in order to change this type of technology? I mean, who do we put pressure on?
wow.
Buy a PS4, no.
PS4.
Yo, Sony, shoot us a check. No, I mean, that's a great option. You know what I mean? It's just to support the people who aren't doing that. You know, it's very simple. You had that, and we built on that before, that young girl who made that whole fuss about Gatorade and what they were putting in there in the fluid. And because of that, they stopped doing that. Enough people got on board, and Gatorade switched up the game. So, you know what I mean? If enough people get on board and like, all right, we're not going to buy your Xbox One or 2. Right? Until you guys, you know, make right as far as my privacies.
Thank you for that. Let's give it to Jarul. You always got some hot topics for us.
Yeah, I got this little joint I get in the mail. Monthly. It's called Health Radar.
Wait, what is that you're holding in your hand?
Health Radar.
Oh, no, paper. Wow.
Oh, yeah, paper.
Yeah.
Yeah. I figured I'd slide this out of the way for a minute. Take it to the old school. So, yeah, Health Radar. It's just, this one's basically dealing with 10 things Americans eat that are banned in other countries.
Wow.
So
banned
in other countries. Yeah. So first and foremost, we got number 1, which is hormones in milk.
Wow.
And it's banned in Australia, New Zealand, Israel, European Union, and Canada. So the reason why I chose this article in the first place is because I think a lot of people are delusional in thinking that America has the strictest standards as it relates to
talk about it.
Food.
What made them think that?
Across the board, they think Americans. No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't do that here. You know what I mean? So I just want to get people to start thinking a little bit more rationally here. So number 2 is preservatives, BHA and BHT, which are manufactured from petroleum. These waxy solids are added to food to prevent spoilage. But they're also a known carcinogen too. So, so yeah, it's banned in Japan, the UK, in baby foods, and also in Europe.
Right, and you gotta wonder why America's got one of the highest rates of cancers.
There it is. You know,
Wow.
My brain science.
Yeah, it's not high science. It's really not. There's another one, number 3, called Olestra. Olestra is found in diet chips, including Pringles, fat-free, Ruffles, Light, and Lay's Wow. It blocks the fat absorption. Olestra can stop the body from taking in valuable vitamins and carotenoids. Yeah.
Now that's interesting too, because we know that the brain needs certain fats to develop.
Yeah.
Right. So you talk about The Walking Dead.
Yeah. Good analogy. Man.
Yeah.
Serious.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
That's
that's banned in the UK and Canada.
Mhm.
Potassium bromate. This is a flour bulking agent. It strengthens dough.
Hmm.
Um, it's also linked to kidney cancer and nervous system disorders. And this is banned in China, Canada, and Europe. Arsenic,
Hmm.
which we built on in another show, but they put that in chicken feed.
Wow.
And we know
Wow.
arsenic is one of the deadliest chemicals on the planet.
Right.
But yeah, I shouldn't even have to really go. You hear arsenic, you should know right there.
Right.
But yeah, it's they feed it to the chickens here in America.
Hmm.
Certain artificial colors, red 40, blue 1, blue 2, and yellow 5 and yellow are either banned or require warning labels when used in other countries.
Hmm.
Obviously, that's a carcinogen too. So it's banned in Norway and Australia. Brominated vegetable oil. I'll just fly through these last ones. Rectopominine.
Hmm.
That just sounds.
Yeah.
Rectopominine.
It goes back to what I said on the one of the nutrition shows. If you can't pronounce something on the label, don't eat it.
Yeah.
If you can't pronounce it, you shouldn't eat it. All right, Keep it simple. GMO foods. Other countries have to, have the labels saying that the food is genetically modified. Where in America, they don't. Farm salmon is banned in Australia and New Zealand. So yeah, that's 10.
Wow. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Where can our listeners or viewers get that information?
You can probably go online and just do a Google search for Health Radar, and you could probably pull it up there, or you could just type in 10 things Americans eat that are banned in other countries, and you could probably find it there too. So
Probably gonna be 5 billion articles on there.
Man,
all of them 10 different lists, man.
Exactly.
Thank you for that, God.
Sure indeed.
And I know we do owe the people a health show, so I think we definitely gonna rap about that because we know the holidays are coming up, so we definitely have to talk to our people a little bit about how they're gonna detox themselves after all of the the toxic foods that some of us may eat. So
And by holidays you mean Christmas, because the Thanksgiving just totally gets skipped over. They're already playing Christmas music in certain places.
I know, huh?
Oh man.
Maybe that's progress. I don't know. If you're indigenous, maybe that's progress.
Right?
So, one thing, as you know, I'm in education, and a news report came out this week on KNX 1070 where it said that an elementary school teacher by the name of Mark Burnt, who worked for the Miramonte Elementary School, pleaded no contest for playing sex games with his students. And he's basically facing 25 years because of his plea. One of the things that was detailed in the story is that, some students gave accounts of the fact that, which wound up being consistent with the research or the investigation that they did with the children, that some of the children ate semen, ate that particular teacher's semen. And yeah, man. I mean, it's a really sick story, man. And when you're listening to that story in real time and you're driving to a school as an educator, it makes you feel very much enraged. So it goes back to our previous show where we talked about homeschooling. And, I really think that considering the injustices that are going on just from the top to the bottom in education, we're going to see homeschooling as being one of those new waves of education that comes into play.
Kind of going back to the old school.
True indeed.
Right, the way it used to be.
Right, because let's just all add on. Who is the first teacher in your household?
Man, my mom. I had to say my mom was,
Yeah, no doubt. My mom, my pop.
True indeed.
Well, the first teacher, moms,
Right.
Yeah.
So, we pretty much duplicate that for our children. It's just that we want to send our children into schools if we make that choice. with something already. So all a teacher can do for my son is maybe add on to what he's already familiar with. I mean, from time to time, at least on his level, he may learn something new. However, as far as tactiles, things that he can manipulate, those types of things, those are abundant in schools. But aside from that, our advocacy is just to teach your own child. You know what I mean, and send them in there prepared. Make sure their identity's intact because, quite frankly, man, based on what happened this week, some parents they're not really teaching their children civilization. Mm-hmm. They're just sending them to these high class babysitters, also known as teachers. So, with that being said, why don't we go back to Jaquil for the next
before I talk about mine, I just wanted 25 years, why are we even paying for this dude to be in prison? You know what I mean? Like, it should just be very simple.
Good point.
You know what I mean? After something like that, in any event, I got some news about, our all-powerful president. And literally, I mean that, all-powerful president. So, I'm sure everyone's aware, Obamacare is just a huge success. Mm-hmm. Everyone's been able to sign up for it, and without any fails, and no one has lost their insurance plans and has been forced to pay higher premiums. None of that has happened. No, sorry. So back to reality. What's really going on is that no one's been able to sign up for it, right? People are losing their plans. People are being forced to, even my mother. So I had this conversation with my mom. Hey, Mom, did you hear about it? And she's like, yeah, I'm actually upset about it. After all these years, Mom, finally listening to me. In any event, he offers some really pathetic excuse for of why. I'm gonna just be real with y'all. Some pathetic ass excuse of why this happened. Right? He's just like, yeah, my fault. We dropped the ball. Mm-hmm. Now, just the last show we talked about those different things that Obama had flip-flopped on, said one thing, did another. This being one of them, he said, "I'll make sure that you guys never lose your health care and that you will be right, and no one's gonna have to pay higher premiums and all this." The exact opposite happens, and he says, "Oops, my bad, I dropped the ball." Mm-hmm. As a way to fix it, he signs this law into effect, which currently stops insurance companies from cutting any plans that haven't already been cut. Now, that's kind of fishy within itself, right? Mm-hmm. Because what do you mean by already been cut? In the process of being cut? Mm-hmm. Right? So you can say, well, we had these 2 million people that were processing before you passed this bill, so we need to still process. Mm-hmm. Okay, fine, go ahead, process it. Mm-hmm. Right? So in any event, that's one thing. But on the backside of that bill, you got to watch what these people do on the other end. He basically gives himself the right to go against any law that Congress passes.
Wow.
Current and in the future, which in turn pretty much makes him a dictator.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a really good example of, how dictatorships are set up. I would definitely encourage everyone, and, I'm saying this to myself as well, since there are all these recent developments in healthcare reform in the United States, it'd probably be a really good idea to begin doing some more research in terms of what's coming out of medical science. Because when you create a system where there is some uniformity, then that uniformity, it comes out in the forms of doctors, pharmacists, and the medication and the practices and procedures of everyone in that field. Mm-hmm. So we really have to do the knowledge, what type of medication are they introducing now into this system, and who's taking it, who is it being targeted to. So that's definitely some really good research for us to do.
No doubt.
We will do it for you all.
Yeah, and I think now, more than anything, is a time to, it's not like everyone's on board. It's not the whole government who's against, and who's trying to perform this. Obama just fired like a total of, not just all in one shot, but almost a total of 200 high military officials have been let go, right? So we need to be reaching out to congressmen who are the ones who are funding this, right? So we pressure these guys to do what they're supposed to do. They in turn will act and stop him, because he could say whatever law you want to say, but if you don't have money to pass anything, then you don't have any money to pass anything,
Right.
right? And then now's the time for people to really get involved as far as politics, and definitely taking care of your own, sending your kids to homeschooling situations or a group homeschool situation.
Take care of your health.
Yeah, take care of your own health. Start eating proper foods, like the guy was talking about. Those 10 things that people are eating in America that are banned, not like a rock band, right? Banned, not allowed to be eaten in other places, right? And we eat them in America and just accept on face value that everyone has our basic interests in mind.
Exactly.
And people really need to start thinking for themselves and
Wow.
acting.
Exactly.
Peace on that. True indeed.
Word.
Do we have another one, Jarul?
Yeah. I got another one coming from the same Health Radar joint. This one,
Magazine.
yeah. This one's dealing with blood pressure drugs, and they say it's tied to breast cancer. It says women who take the commonly prescribed blood pressure drugs known as calcium channel blockers for at least 10 years double their risk of breast cancer. A study at Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center in Seattle found that the drugs, which include Almaldo, I'm gonna butcher these names, but yeah, Elmloptamin, Norvasc, Nicardipine, Cardine, and Nifedipine, Procardia. Like I said earlier, you can't pronounce it. Don't eat it. Increase the risk of both ductal and lobular breast cancer. Other types of drugs used to control hypertension, such as diuretics, beta blockers, or angiotensin II antagonists, don't increase risk, but they do other damage. So don't forget about that.
Wow.
Researchers speculate that calcium channel blockers may interfere with the apoptosis, or the process of programmed cell death that eliminates unhealthy cells.
Wow. Man, see, that's deep, because you got to think it's not just one thing that sets it off, right? So like we built about, you start young, you get 2 years old, you get hit with all these shots. Plus the hepatitis shot that they give you when you're first at the hospital, and then they give you some other shots, and then when you get a little bit older, you take some more shots. Mind you, this whole time you're not eating proper food, you're drinking fluoride water, you're using deodorants that has carcinogenics in them, you're exposed to other carcinogenics, and then you start taking other stuff like this. Yeah, it's no wonder that cancer rates and high blood pressure. I mean, how about we go back to common sense? Why don't you slow down on the fats that you're eating? Maybe work out a little bit more.
Watch your salt.
Yeah. Eat some more fruits and vegetables.
Right.
And let's see how you do.
People shouldn't even be
drink some water.
Right. You shouldn't even be cooking with salt.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that's common in my household. You shouldn't even be cooking food with
although
salt.
I will say, unless you're gonna have some Himalayan sea salt, which with all this radiation coming out from Japan, it's a good thing to help protect the thyroid.
Thank you for that. Can you repeat that one more time?
Himalayan sea salt. It's pink. Girls say it looks cute. So
I got some in here.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, and I say that because we were at Trader Joe's and we grabbed some, and then the girl was like, "Oh yeah, I initially bought this because it was cute, and then I found out all the benefits, and then she starts telling all this stuff, and I was like, "See, babe, told you."
Is she a friend?
Oh man, that's a low
we'll
blow.
talk about that.
That's a low blow in the box.
Is she your friend? Right?
Oh man.
All right.
Does anyone else have
I gotta
anything
sleep
else to
tonight,
add
brother.
as far as the current events?
Yeah, you know what? Actually, I've got one, and I'll post this article so you guys could see the picture. But it's this Wi-Fi network that's being installed all over Los Angeles. It really popped off in Seattle.
They decided on that.
Yeah, well,
Seattle.
Well, they did it in Seattle. Enough people, and see, this is why I say people. It's not like these people are all powerful and whatever name you want to give them. Illuminati, Bilderberg Group, Rothschilds, blah blah blah. Yeah, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact is that these people are not all powerful. So in Seattle, enough people were like, "Hey, WTF with this stuff?"
Mm-hmm.
See, that's my way of
Right.
cussing it out. Yeah. So then they actually shut it down in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, everyone's kind of, it's that LA, we're a little kickback, relax. So they've been putting these boxes up, and I don't have, I'll post it later so you guys can see it, but it's basically like a square white box looking, and it's got 3 like microphone looking things coming down. And, it detects Wi-Fi, so basically it's storing all this information. So if you notice, like on my phone, right, this little Note 2, anytime I turn off my Wi-Fi,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm driving, and all of a sudden my Wi-Fi pops up. Why the hell's my Wi-Fi popping up?
Mm-hmm.
You drive by these boxes, and they're searching for your signal. So
Wow.
anyone who knows anything about recent hacking events, or even back in the days, knows that when you go to like the DEF CONs or whatever, you walk by with anything that has Bluetooth enabled or whatever. People have these little devices that you can make for like next to nothing, and it'll swipe all your data. If you have your Bluetooth turned on, or if you have your Wi-Fi turned on. We know that Google was given, the Google cars that were driving around were given government passwords to get into people's computers and Wi-Fi's and steal data as they drove around, and didn't get in trouble for it.
Yes.
Yeah, so, again, people who live in LA, or if this happens in a city near you,
If it's not there, it's coming. It's not,
Right.
Right.
But so that's what I'm saying. Now it's a
Right.
time where you need to get with those people
Right.
who you put in power and make them do something.
Mm-hmm.
Because these people aren't going to do anything unless you tell them to do it.
Right.
And I remember,
Or support the people who are doing it currently.
yeah, I mean, again, as far as the news is concerned, one thing that I think I've learned about news reports is that when they say they're proposing to do something, they've already implemented the plan.
Mhm.
They're
Right.
just kind of, adding a little bit of suspense for the public. But I mean, because they just proposed this 1 month ago,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just a discussion that had to be held, with city officials. So now, here you go. We're being told that we're getting something beneficial, but in actuality, we're getting something that will lead to us being enslaved, through technology, which for the most part is what's going on the planet.
Yeah.
So, thanks for sharing that, God. Thank both of you for the current events. Definitely. Well, why don't we go ahead and take a quick break, and then we're going to get back to our show. What makes rain, hail, snow, and earthquakes is friendship with the opposite sex, experimenting with high explosives. See you in a moment. Peace.
Peace. Oh, man.
Wow, man.
That's some wild shit.
Peace. Welcome back to the Knowledge Yourself radio show. My name is Teray Allah.
Peace, Jakil Knowledge Allah.
Peace, Jarulullah.
So now we're going to get into today's show in regards to if men and women can be friends, or can you be friends with a member of the opposite sex? And if so, is that kind of friendship experimenting with high explosives? So why don't we go ahead and get into the questions. Question number 1, what is a friend? Can men and women just be friends? What are the limitations of any friendship between men and women? That's just question number 1.
I was going to say that was
What are the different levels or layers of friendship? That's number 2. And number 3, is a man that can keep a platonic relationship with a woman in more control of lustful tendencies than a man that cannot? Is it alright if I repeat that?
Yes, please
You're
do.
gonna have
Let
to.
me say number 3 again. Is a man that can keep a platonic relationship with a woman in more control of lustful tendencies than a man that cannot? I'm going to pass the next 3 to the God Jakil.
4. What is a friend with benefits? How does this blur the meaning of friendship between men and women? How are number 5. How are friendships of the opposite sex and the same sex different? Yeah. 6. Does telling a woman you consider a friend you love her cause confusion? That sounds like some high explosives right there.
Word. All right, so 7. Are homosexuals the only ones that can have a platonic friendship with heterosexuals?
Man, in high school, I'm telling you. Hugo, piece of Hugo, man. He had all these fine females walking around with him.
Why do women have gay men as friends more often than heterosexual men? Number 8. Are women with a lot of male friends looking for something, attention, etc.? Number 9. Is there a difference between a friendship when one person has knowledge of self and the other doesn't, opposed to 2 people with knowledge of self or 2 people without?
Sounds kind of complex right there. Well, let's go ahead and get into it. We hit, as many shows as we feel necessary. We like to hit our audience with definitions. So what we all talked about when we built this show was, first of all, what is friendship and or what are friends? So I'm just going to kind of pass it around in the righteous order, Jarul and Jakil, and we all pretty much added on what we felt the definitions of friends or friendship is. So I'm going to give it away to Jarul to lead the speech.
Yeah, for me, friendship or a friend is someone who is like a mirror, right? So what do I mean by that? It simply means that, they're there to make sure that you stay on point. So if there's things about you that aren't right and exact, they should be the one that can tell you these things, and then you take what they say to heart because you respect them that much. Also, I see a friend as someone that you come together and build with for a specific task, a goal, or something to that effect, and just someone who makes you better. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Well said.
Yeah. So my definition is a person you can relate to, and kind of like you were saying, help you to your goals and help you be on point. Someone who means you no harm.
Mhm.
And you have that saying when people would see you in the dark, right? Be like, hey, are you a friend or a foe?
Mm.
Right? And so, it's that identification. You mean to do me harm, or are you trying to help me? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
In my endeavors, and I can help you in your endeavors.
Mhm.
That'd be a
Yeah,
friend.
Great. Good definitions thus far. Sounds like a neutral conversation here. uh, well, I basically define term friendship uh, between two people where uh, it's a relationship built on trust, but more importantly, a friend is someone that's not going to betray that trust, and that's either ethically or morally. So once you establish ties with someone that you consider a friend, you can confide in them certain information that you're not going to hear come from someone else. Even if it's that person's family. So for the most part, I think any friendship that I build, it has to be based on that. It has to be based on trust.
Okay.
True indeed.
Hmm.
Can I leave you in the room with my significant other and not hear something suggestive went on?
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? That type of stuff.
Right.
So-
Well, can I give you the keys to the house,
hmm
and know all my stuff is still going to be where it's supposed to be
Right.
when I get back.
Right.
Mhm.
So I guess it depends on the I guess the task, man. How simple or how complex it is. Certain friends, you can't trust them with really complex things. We know those type of friends. So we give them simple stuff to do,
Right.
simple responsibilities,
Right.
or we don't give them any responsibilities.
Uh-huh.
And then
Right. That is your responsibility.
Right.
To be the person that I know.
right. And then the more complex responsibilities are kind of like, well, if I gave you the keys to my car
Right.
and I need to drive another car to drop that one off, you can drive it without being reckless.
Right.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So those are the types. Those are like maybe complex. It depends on how you gauge friendship. So of course, our first segment is titled "Friend or Friendship." So I just kind of want to get into this with my brothers, and let's go ahead and just get into the idea of what is the point of friendship. So I think the point of a friendship is, and this kind of comes to mind. It came to mind when I was riding here.
Bismarcky.
I had KRS-One.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
We got a lot of friend
Yeah.
songs, man, in
Yeah.
hip hop.
Right.
I think.
That's your turn to throw one back.
Jay-Z, friend or foe? No.
Oh, I don't remember that one.
Uh-huh.
We need to check that out, man. One of the things that kind of came out in our discussion was this idea of, what is the point of friendship? So I know one thing that we all have been, told about, or at least been asked to read a little bit more into, are the writings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, which is the instructions to the laborer. And in that particular text, because you can find it online, it's not some secret tablet or anything.
Unless you don't have an internet connection.
Right, unless you don't have an internet connection. But you can go down to a mosque, hey, brother, give it to me. They
Right.
should give it to you. But one of the things what comes out of that, if I'm paraphrasing correctly, is that, when you acquire a certain degree of knowledge, or the knowledge, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had discussed, you're going to be able to make friends in all walks of life.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, for me, the point of any friendship is that there's a networking potential there. If you have a really good relationship with that particular person, whether they be male, and in this case, for this show, females, there's always that possibility that where she goes and she may have another opportunity presented to her, a lot of times women will turn around and say, hey, they have a job here, or there's an opportunity here. I may have told, that person may say, I told them about you, things of that nature. I
Right.
think that would be one point of the friend.
Right.
How does everyone else see it?
No, I would say that's exactly what I would say. It's a friend is that person who kind of like I said, as they succeed, so should you, and as you succeed, so should they. You know what I mean? It's because you guys are kind of walking together towards that path, and and it's not necessarily, um, succeeding as far as like business goes or whatever, but now because you're my friend, you have access to everyone that I know and all my resources. Right now, I have access to everyone you know and your resources. Right. So when I say, I need a mechanic, you're like, oh, it just so happens that I know this mechanic that I've been with for like the last 20 years, and dude is writing exact and da da da. Oh, awesome, perfect. And then you're like, oh, I need a natural dentist. Oh, really? I just so happen to, right? And so you have that network, and that's what I think Elijah's really talking about is having friends in all walks of life, is having access to be able to get what you need, and then also deal in equality. If you're just taking for yourself, you don't want to be a bloodsucker, right? But so you also need to be able to have something to offer to that person too. So friendship should definitely be two-sided.
Yeah, I simply see it as growth. So, you come together with other people who have certain skill sets and things that they're great at that you may not necessarily be as good at, but you know about yourself you need to develop. So it's that's that counterbalance of sharing. Okay, I'm good at this. It's a trading. I'm good at this. You're good at that. Let's come together and sharpen each other up.
Right.
I think, like, for example, I always like to look at the animal kingdom. So like if you think about, like, for example, like today I saw a hawk flying with parrots. You know what I mean? So,
interesting.
Right.
With
them.
Not in his hand.
Not in his hand. Flying
Along,
together.
Yeah,
exactly.
Let's roll.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's like, I think it's the strength in numbers. When you're by yourself, you're gonna have a harder task, in life in general than if you're with a collective. You know what I mean? So coming together with like-minded people, and then really uplifting the group, coming together as a group.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah. No. What is it? Is it whales? So I know a lot of animals like that will have these other little small fish that are around them to clean off the whale.
Exactly.
Right. So it's kind of, you see it all through the animal kingdom. That whole okay, well, if you get some, I get some too, and we work together, and we can both do it together. You know what I mean?
Right.
True indeed. So that interdependency is a really important component in a friendship. Now, I think we need to discuss, before we even get into the opposite sex discussion, all right? We're just laying the foundation for that discussion. Now, what are the true qualities of a friend in terms of everyone's experience here? Who would like to begin that talk?
What are the true qualities of a friend? I would just say the basics would be someone that you can trust. Well, because we're talking about a true friend, right? So that's a little different than a person, that you just hang out with every once in a while on the block, or you guys go catch a beer, right? That's like not that that's not a friend, right? But that's like, okay, that's that dude. Like, yeah, I know him, you know what I mean? But a true friend, like, that's that guy.
That would be considered like an acquaintance.
For me personally, I would still classify that person as a friend, right? Because acquaintance just kind of sounds a little divisive, right? Like if I told someone, like, "Yeah, what's up, man? This is my acquaintance," you'd be like, "Yo, what the?" Hi, homie. Like, your acquaintance is about to bounce. I got you, right? But if, nah, this is my friend. You know what I mean? Da da da. Right. So now that level of friendship may be different, right? For instance, there's this dude that I work with, and this guy always wants to call me brother. And I'm always like, yo, man, like, why you keep calling me brother? Like, I don't know where you live. I don't call you on the weekends. We don't talk about anything. When we do try to have conversation about something, you have some kind of way about you. Like, those aren't the characteristics of someone that I would call my brother. You know what I mean? So in that same thing, like when you have a friend, there's a certain kind of uh, thing you need to fit inside of, right? There's a certain definition that goes around being a friend, and so you just don't give that to anyone, right? So I would say that's when like the acquaintance thing would kind of fit in, or like a coworker. That's why those names were developed, right? Like I can introduce, a colleague, right? I can introduce someone. This is my colleague, my coworker, right? And that's just setting the standard. Like, okay, this is just someone I know from work. Now, if you were to introduce someone that you knew outside of work as an acquaintance, right? I mean, I don't know, that kind of sounds a little standoffish. Like, yeah, I really like this dude, but I had no one else to work with me tonight.
Well, I think, I wanted to give it over to Jeru in terms of what are the qualities of a true friendship or a true friend.
Well, I'm gonna actually say what a friend isn't.
All right,
that's easier, huh?
Yeah, it's easier for me. I'm gonna say a friend isn't someone who only calls you when they need something. You know,
that's key.
Right. It's not someone who, when they do call you, they only talk about themselves. Never ask you how your life's going. You know.
Yeah.
Ask you genuinely about how things are with your family and those types of things. You know, I think that's what a friend. It's a quality of a good friend.
Not just a lead up to ask you for something.
Exactly.
Hey, how are you? How's your family? That's great. So can I borrow?
Exactly. Right.
I need $20.
Right. So I think when you consider that, then true friend is a very, very, very small window of people. So yeah.
I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
say the difference between
go ahead,
true friend
it's cool. Go ahead.
and just a normal friend, right? And someone that you have some kind of dealings with, right? A true friend would be more like you're saying, that small scope of people, all those things that are not.
Yeah, you can like. I think a true friend, you could, basically almost look at them like yourself in a sense. They think the way you think. You know, if things went down, they'd be right there with you.
Right. You throw on the left, they throw on the right.
Exactly. Yeah. You like you could bring them around anyone. It's not like, okay, well, I know how he got a certain way about him, so I don't want to bring him around my mom or my grandmother. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like a category friend. Like this is my club friend right here.
Right.
So this is my friend, my movie theater friend right here, because he's not gonna talk over the movie. Yeah, this is my friend. This is my friend right here. I go jogging with, but can't quite take him to the restaurant. He's kind of nasty. Those types of things.
Right.
Very good. I think a true quality. There are several true qualities of a friend. I think. The first thing is when, and it's touching on what Jeru said, that they care about your well-being. More importantly, they're not going to hide from you the things that may be making you a not so good person. So sometimes they'll point out flaws in you where necessary. You know what I mean? You just don't want a person that says,
nitpicking you.
Right. Why do you talk like that? Not those types of friends. I'm saying that
you really put on your right sock and then your right shoe first?
Yes.
I mean, come on.
Who does that?
Right. I mean, those types of things, man, it's like, nah, but they care about your well-being, but more importantly, they do not advise you in a way that's going to lead to your harm. They're not using you as some sort of experiment, like, let me see what happens if he does it, and then I'll do it if he does it. You know what I mean? There's one of those qualities, man. Yeah. It's like, I think a true friend, for the most part, they do care about your well-being.
For sure.
Genuinely.
For sure. Right. Yeah, and I like how you said that, too. They're not going to give you advice that's going to lead you in the wrong way, and they're not... trying to use you as a tool and a slave for the owner, on the brand. It's like, okay, I have this dude that's my friend, and I know he'll do whatever for me, so let me just go ahead and make him do whatever for me, because I know he'll do that. You know what I mean? Or she'll do that.
So now, what about knowledge of self? I mean, we all have knowledge of self. Many of you watching this, if not all of you watching this, have knowledge of self. When it comes to having friends, or you meet people, that do not have what would be considered knowledge of themselves, is it possible to still build a friendship with people that have no knowledge of themselves? Yeah.
That's a tough one. I think, you can, but I don't know. That's tough because the reason why I say that is because there's a lot of people who do have knowledge of self that, for whatever reason, two people would not necessarily see each other as true friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have people who have knowledge of self and have people who they've been friends with prior to them having knowledge of self. When they were at the lowest point in their life to the highest, they've always been there.
Yeah.
And those people, even though they're not on that same path as you as it relates to knowledge of self, they can still be considered true friends. So I think it's a case-by-case situation.
Mm-hmm.
I think it becomes a little bit more difficult when you do get knowledge of yourself because you start to see the world a little bit differently. So the conversations that you and a true friend
That's who you're building the cipher with?
Yeah, you might have difficulty relating as much as you used to. And then, people are always like, oh, you changed. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think those types of things can be difficult, but as
Well,
long as...
then I guess the question would be, why didn't you change too?
Right.
Right.
All
And-
living things change.
And that's
Well,
and that right there is a sign of, what may not have been as much as we don't want to admit it. Maybe that wasn't a true friendship based on just being two beings. You know what I mean? Sometimes friendships are built on the wrong things. You know what I mean? Like, oh well, anytime I go out with this person, I get more phone numbers. That's why he's my close friend. This person, every time I go out with him, I can go into a club for free. And then when you stop going to the club, it's like you've changed. I've changed.
Yeah.
Right.
Nah, it's the same person.
Right. It must not have been built on much substance.
Right.
That's powerful. No, I was just gonna say, I think one of the things we have to recognize when it comes to friendship, a friend isn't somebody who, for example, if you don't have a job and they don't have a job, you guys get together and feel better about each other because you both are unemployed. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like a friend should be someone who says, okay, well, we both don't have a job. Let's figure out how we can get one. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think a lot of times people look at friends as people who they can wallow in their self-pity with.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then that keeps you stuck at a certain level. You know what I mean?
Right. That person should lift you up.
Yeah.
That's the old saying, misery loves company.
Exactly.
And that's another thing you have to watch out for. If you're having, the best time of your life, or you're in that phase of your life where everything seems to be working out, and your friend doesn't appear to respond well because they're not doing too well in life, a true friend is going to be happy for you.
Right.
And they're actually going to use your progress as a source of motivation, not just as a source of envy. Because a lot of people, they fall into that trap where it's like, okay, he got a new car, or he buys a new car every 3 or 4 years. I still have a junky car. It turns into envy instead of, hey, are you selling that car?
Right.
Straight up. So
yeah. Now I got it. Exactly.
Right. All right. So this is going to be where we get into the controversial phase of the show, because now we need to talk about the opposite sex. Go ahead.
You're right. I did get to add on as far as.
Go ahead.
What was that? Can you have a friend who has knowledge of self?
Yes.
I have to take a page from a righteous brother here. He said, you need to learn how to be fishers of men. And I always drew that up as you need to be able to be relatable to all kind of people. Right? And so although, you're up in the club all the time and drinking, doesn't mean I can't relate to you. You know what I mean? I know what it's like to be up in the club all the time drinking. So I don't necessarily have to be up in the club with you drinking, but we can still relate on that issue or build a friendship around that. Or maybe I can hit a club every now and then with you, just because, again, I can relate to what it's like to be in a club. And so I think that was one of the things that when we were building the show, we were kind of building on. And that'll kind of start the round one between you guys as far as the friendship and relationship and kinship. I remember you were saying, God, that all those are kind of synonymous with each other. And so, yeah, that's how I say it. If you can relate with someone, we can build a friendship on that level. And so that's why I'm weird. I'll do things like I'll see someone who has a Lancer like me, and I'll be like, hey, yo, what's up? And sometimes they're like, hey, what's up? And other times they look at me weird, and then they look at the car, and then they look at me, and they're like, oh, hey. Like, okay, then they get it. And so, yeah, I'll just start talking to that person just because, okay, cool, you bought the same car that I bought. Now let's see what else we have in relationship with each other, since we already relate on one level, right? And that's kind of the science behind the God degree, as far as people calling something different to keep them all separate. I'd rather see what kind of connections do we have, and then what kind of other connections can you build based on that one common connection.
And in all of that, what you said, we should, those of us who have knowledge of self, we should take every encounter as a learning experience. We are always thirsty for knowledge, not the human flesh. We are thirsty for knowledge. So you can learn something from anyone if you can humble yourself enough to learn that. True indeed.
That quote as it relates to Jesus and the fisher of men is powerful, because I think us with the knowledge of self, being a fisherman means that when you catch a fish, you're taking it from one place to another place. So in essence, the fish is in the water are caught up in the wisdom, and you're bringing them out into your way of life, or where you get down. So I think being a fisher of men, or you having knowledge of self and having a friend who may not, ultimately you see the benefits of having knowledge of self, so you should be striving to bring that friend up to your level as it relates to that consciousness too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But to do that, that's where the whole relate thing comes, right? You can't really be on someone like, yo, man, you eating swine and you believe in the mystery God and da-da-da-da, right? You kind of got to be like, yeah, man, bacon does taste good, I guess, but it's not good for you. I always tell people bacon does taste good. It's the same way that crack cocaine is awesome.
Right.
But it's neither one of those things are good for you long term.
Right, and I think, just in my experience, having knowledge of self for such a short period of time, that discussion is always presented by people who are curious about your lifestyle. You know what I mean? It's like in my day-to-day encounters with people, I don't really say much in terms of what they should do. Now, what I may do is I may tell them what I do not do if the issue comes up.
Right.
But at the same time, it creates sort of this mystique about you that people may want to kind of delve into, and begin asking you little questions like, why don't you, every time we eat lunch, how come you don't eat, these types of things? And I usually just give really short answers because it's bad for you. I don't eat it.
Right.
Right. And then if they want to go in more detail, well, what do you mean? Explain that. That's when you can open up that door to teach them, and then, then you'll learn from them as well.
Right.
Indeed.
That's friendship. Because then, you don't want to put yourself up here saying, oh, I don't eat that because of this, that, and third. Did you know? You know what I mean?
Right.
But saying, like, I don't eat it because it's bad for you means that I don't eat it because it's bad for you. But then that sparks curiosity. And if they're open to learning, that means they're humbling themselves to come to you for more information. And that's, what you should be providing.
For sure. Perfect example, I went to the dentist a while back, and I was asking about, I wanted to make sure there was no kind of pork, product that come from pig in whatever she was using. And she was like, right off the bat, she was like, no, why, are you Muslim? I was like, no, I'm not Muslim. Short answer, right? And then she goes, are you Jewish? No.
You sure you're not Jewish, man?
Me and Sammy Davis. And and Shine, right?
Right.
And I was like, nah, I'm not Jewish. And then she was just like, huh, okay. And I was like, yeah, I know it's not good for me, so I choose not to do things that aren't good for me.
Mhm.
And I just left it as that. And she didn't add on, and I didn't say anything else about it.
Mm-hmm.
Simple, right? But
Mm-hmm.
had she said something else, then I see that would have been the time to be like, all right, here, let me tell you why.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Then
True indeed.
I see what you said.
Great add-on. So now let's get to the controversy of the show. It's going to be controversial here on out, depending on which side of the issue you're on. So one thing we wanted to bring out in this show, which is the core of our discussion, is first of all, can men and women be friends without it leading to some sort of intimacy or physical or sexual relationship?
The hairy mentality.
Now, yeah, that's going to be one of our views today. I know that because I haven't seen. I've seen like parts of that,
Mhm.
but the first thing that we wanted to address is, if you have a friend of the opposite sex, how much time, with it, I mean, a person who has a family, how much time, we're talking about all three of us, how much time should we spend with a friend of the opposite sex? Who would like to?
You know how I stand. You know where I stand on
You want to start? Go ahead.
So,
Chief.
well, before
Well,
you
yeah.
get there, man, I'll say, you know, it depends as far as what kind of other ships you may be in, right? And you definitely need to deal in equality. And if you acknowledge your culture, you realize you need to deal with home before you deal with things outside of home.
Mhm.
So, assuming all that's in order, you spend as much time as you want to with.
Mhm.
That's what I say. Whoever you want to spend time with, as long as you're taking care of everything else, that's your time to, you know what I'm saying, to be on your ships. Whatever other ships those may be.
All right, Drew.
For me, I'm only looking at it from my point of view. I don't really have a whole lot of extra time as it is.
Mhm.
So if I was to take some of the extra time that I do have and spend it outside with a woman,
Mhm.
a friend, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's gonna be trouble.
Right.
It's gonna be trouble. So where I'm at in my life, man, I understand, and I think with understanding that means not trying to make everyone think the same way you think,
Mhm.
but understanding the way that they think.
Yeah.
So whether it's my black woman or how other women think, I think when you are spending a significant amount of time with a woman and you are a righteous person and you're a nice person, you treat them well, you treat them probably better than most of the males that they are come around.
Right.
At some point, that woman's going to start to develop some kind of liking towards you.
Mhm.
Um, I think that's a natural thing to say.
Mhm.
So I think having that understanding, I just avoid it at all costs because
Mhm.
I could cause trouble amongst the righteous.
Right. Right. So I mean, for me, it's that if it's for professional reasons, I'm all for that because sometimes, at least in my field of study, I do find myself having to spend time with female colleagues. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
if they're friends, I think I tend to put the same limits on that particular type of time being spent. So if I say to my friend at work, um,
Female friend at work.
yes, my female friend at work, I need to
Right.
speak with you, or if she says, I need to talk to you after school. The first question, that is, if they understand that you have a family, one of the first things they're going to say after they say, "Can I speak with you after school?" or "Can I speak with you during lunch?" But mainly for me, it's after school because work is over.
Yeah.
What should follow is, um, do you have like 10 minutes? You know what I mean? So they establish that time.
Right. That's going to be
the time
needed
frame.
to
Right.
fulfill said task.
Right, because
Okay.
because they know, and they should always be aware of the fact that you have family and you have responsibilities outside of that job. So that would be another thing. a friend, even if she's a woman, they respect the fact that your time, right? And they stand by that your time really should always be with your family. Most of your time should be spent with your family, not her. So they'll just put that out there like, do you have like 10 minutes? Like, what time are you leaving?
Right.
Those are generally the questions that I get.
Right.
Okay. So now let's go on to the next one. This is the dive right here.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Get your goggles
men
on.
and women. All right. So if you're a woman, if you're a man watching this, we're talking about heterosexuals in terms of friendships. So I want you to ask yourself this question, and it would be cool if you can kind of post this on one of our social media sites.
Facebook.com/KOS Radio.
Mm-hmm. And Twitter. All right. So.
Waiting for that call.
Can you love a friend? Can you love a friend?
Can you love?
And love is a strong word, y'all. Yes, you can love a friend. Okay.
Yeah. And I'll say yes, you can love a female friend.
Mm-hmm.
It just needs to be defined and clarified what you mean when you say you love her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the conflict may come in to play, right? Because she grew up watching princesses and Disney movies. And, I personally, when I say I love you, probably coming from a different perspective than that Cinderella Prince Charming. And then so I see what the God Rule is saying as far as, because I just have a certain way that I was taught to treat women, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're hanging out with me, right, I'm going to open the door for you. I'm going to do all those just nice things, not because I'm trying to make you my woman, just because, so I'm going to put you on the inside of the street, right? Just those things. Now, those are all things that the God said, like, it doesn't happen nowadays. So when you do that to females, then they start thinking like, oh, well.
Right. He says he wants to be my friend, but his actions, you know what I mean?
Right, and then when you throw the whole I love you in there, although you may be saying one thing and meaning something, that's probably being interpreted a whole nother way, you know what I mean? And so, I would say you can, just both people really need to have a clear understanding of what is meant and defined by the word love.
Okay, so
how it's going to be expressed.
Yeah, I mean, as far as my friend is concerned, when I asked her this question, because it was just a general discussion in terms of can men and women be friends? You know what I mean? Heterosexual men and women. We'll get to homosexual friendships later on. So, but in any case, the idea that when a man says, and this is what the God Rule and I were kind of going back and forth about,
ding, ding.
When you say to a woman, I love you, or I love you like a sister, or that's why I love you, those types of things can be taken long.
Saying I love you like a sister too. So, and we know what happens when you put some Jodeci on.
Oh my God, man. Well, I mean, her feeling for it, man, was just basically like, hey, when a man says that to a woman, sometimes that can throw them for a loop. Okay, so I think it has to be well defined, and your timing can be off, man. I mean, if you know someone like 2 or 3 months, and you say, "Hey, I love you, girl," that's
might be kind of weird.
Yeah, that's very premature and probably unwanted.
Right.
You know what I mean? But in terms of that, I know Jerul, you said that it's something that shouldn't be said. I'd like you to add on to that.
It shouldn't be said because, like I said, you got to understand. In understanding, you understand not only the person that you consider a friend, but you understand that the world that they live in. Especially if they don't have the knowledge of themselves. Love to them is a completely different word, and they've been groomed, hearing this word a specific way for however many years they've been on the planet. Whereas us, we see it as the highest form of understanding, where they're gonna think of it more as a affectionate type of connecting type of thing.
Mm.
Especially when you're showing up, you're on the inside of the street.
Right.
I'm opening the door for
Mhm.
you.
Right. Yeah, it's like if I was to go to a foreign country, right, and I know certain words in that language evoke certain feelings in a person, I'm not going to use the words.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like I said, you just have to understand the environment and then the person who lived in that environment. Now, if they're a person that you know have a higher way of seeing things and they can see things deeper and can rationalize, then maybe you could go there. But my thing is always, this is my thing. What is the point? Why would you tell another woman who's your friend you love her? What's the point? If you guys have a good connection, chemistry, whatever, why do you have to say it?
That's a good point.
And then as a woman, that's how that a lot of times. I'm not saying, I'm not speaking for all women, but from the women that I've known in my life. Yeah, let me qualify that. Yeah,
Good disclaimer.
Right. Disclaimer. When you make a statement like that, it's gonna start the wheels turning in their head. Well, why did he have to say it? Well, maybe there's more to this.
There was that one time when he did this for me.
Right.
And then this happened.
Right. And then when she'll probably go to a female friend. And then, that's when, you know what I mean? So I just say, why say it at all?
I think part of what I was arguing is that, it depends on the context in which it was said.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Well, it's not one of those, you see him and you're like, I love you. I mean, it can't be anything like that. It could be, for example, when you see that a person is going through a very, very difficult time in their life. You know what I mean? Maybe they had a loss in their life. Maybe things are very confusing. And at that point, you being their friend, you're using that word to sort of help them confirm the fact that someone cares about them. You know what I mean? Because, there are some situations where...
Can't you say I care about you?
Now, care, doesn't it have the same connotation? Care has the same connotation, though. I mean, if you say, I'm telling you this because I care about you. I mean, that's kind of...
I don't know. I think love holds a little bit more weight. I think
okay, I would agree that love may hold more weight, but care is one of those, like, secret player ways of saying, right? You're like, all right.
A secret player way.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because, then, right, just to kind of go off topic for a moment, that's the difference between a pimp and a player, right? Is a pimp's just going to tell you the truth. No, I don't love you. Right? Whereas the player's going to be like, yeah, of course I really like you and I enjoy you. And he's going to say all these nice words that kind of really mean the word, but never really say that because you're trying to run game, right? So you don't necessarily want to commit, where a pimp's just going to be more honest with you. Yeah, so as far as when you use the word care, it kind of has underlining meanings, especially when you say, like, hey, I'm telling you this because I really care about you. As a female hearing that, again, disclaimer, right? I'm going to say that the large reaction that you're going to get from that is, oh, he must really love me, have deeper feelings for me, must want to say that he loves me, but doesn't want to say that. You got to remember that females tend to be a little bit more romantic than men. So, that can turn into, well, he's kind of shy, so he doesn't want to say that right now. And so, I think that's a secret way of kind of saying,
exactly.
I love you. So, care for you is kind of heavy too.
Right, yeah. I mean, that like I said, even being there when they're going through a tragic situation can change the whole dynamic of a friendship. You're the only one that was there.
Right.
You showed that you cared.
I see you pouring it on now.
I'm
man.
just saying.
You know what though? Hey, let me say I can speak to that, and I won't say any names to protect the guilty. But I was involved in a relationship in which that person's mother passed away, and through that whole time, I was like the main person in their life. And so, yeah, I'd probably say, regardless of what happened, that person will always have some kind of attachment to me just because
Mm-hmm.
anytime they think of their mother, they're going to think of who was there. And regardless of what we're doing, that's always going to be that issue. So, yeah, those kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, but see that's love, but it's not a physical love, and that's the thing that we kind of touched on when we were building this show, but it's like, in the world today and in the minds of many men and women, as statistics show, but mainly in the minds of men, love, in saying that, is always attached with possession, specifically physical possession.
Yeah.
It's also attached to mental possession. So the thing is, some people use that word loosely. They say, I love you, but in essence, what they're doing with that word is they're using it to try to control that other person. Pull them in, and then let's see how I can now navigate and deal with them.
Right.
Once I plant that word in their minds. You know what I mean? That's why it has to be said in a certain context. If you just shoot it off the hip, then you're messing with high explosives.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because love to me is like, it's like a word of encouragement if it's used in the correct context.
But that's coming from your rational mind.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
women are not rational.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that you got to realize the world that we live in.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, for example, we know black, brown, yellow people are all black.
Mm-hmm.
We know that scientifically, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the average brown person, if you say they're black, automatically is going to say, no, I'm not.
Let's have that conversation.
You know what I mean? So the world that they live in dictates how they think.
Mm-hmm.
So us knowing that the world women live in dictates how they think should be reason for us to be a little bit more, careful in the words that we choose to express to women that we consider friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It is probably, and especially like you said, Drew, you got to really look at the environment, right? So in this highly sexualized environment that we live in, you really got to be careful about the words that you use and I guess your interactions with a lot of females because, like you said, especially men, right, tend to think more than women that they like them just because the men may have a physical attraction to the female, right? So I think you really need to clarify those lines, right? Okay, well, you are my friend, and even more so dealing with male and females, you kind of really have to set a certain boundary because anything more than like, all right, if I'm now spending 2 hours with you after work and we're just building,
dang.
No, I'm just right because so you're like, oh well, that 10 minutes turns into a let's just sit down and have a coffee or something, and then you start talking, right? So now maybe it's not 2 hours in the beginning; it's a half an hour, and then it just kind of develops, right? The point is that you start spending a longer period of time with this person, a long period of time, right? Then that kind of tends to look a certain way. It's like, okay, well, he's taking time away from whatever else he's doing, regardless if you have a family or not. You're taking time from whatever else you're doing to spend time with her, right? So that already looks a certain way because you're not going to do that unless you're interested in the person, regardless of what kind of, we're talking sexually interested or you actually want to be their friend. But you're not going to invest any amount of time in someone unless you're interested in them. Right? So then when you put that in perspective, the sexual tension that generally goes on between men and women, especially if you have an attractive coworker or what we deem to be attractive nowadays, or whether you're just attracted to her, you definitely have to define that line because now you're putting that interest in her, and she will see that and kind of, you guys have that attraction, right? The sun and moon have attractive powers, and so there's that exchange. Easily turn into flirtation, I think.
Yeah.
True.
And then flirtation is kind of fun.
You're okay.
No, I'm saying, like,
explain that.
Yeah, some people just see this like a fun game. Like, I tell you a little funny flirty joke. You tell me a little funny flirty joke. Right. But then you know you got to remember we live in a highly sexualized place, and so you have to watch those kind of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because what turns out to be a little fun he one day gets taken a little serious by someone. Because again, you're talking about someone who's your friend, right? So you make a little flirty joke, and now I'm opening the door for you, or I put my arm on your back to walk you through the door.
Wow. Okay.
You know, like you open the door, you're like, hey, go through the door, right? All those things start to get looked at in a different light now when you start to add different elements to what was deemed a friendship, right? So definitely, I would have to probably, so far agree with the guy. Like, if you're gonna be friends with a female, you really gotta define that level of friendship and kind of keep it at that proximity.
And there's certain etiquette that you have to follow strictly. If you deviate from it, then that's when the confusion comes into
Right.
play. I think, you know.
Well,
Although you know what, if she has not, okay, so maybe we're taking it from the perspective of people who have families. So now, if you're a single man, does that change the way that you view your answer?
That's called a cleansing breath, y'all.
As a single man, I mean, I think the dynamics definitely do change. But I mean, like I said, if it's strictly a friend, then that's what it should remain.
Okay. Well, so I mean, so let's set the stage. So, we're single. Me and you are boys. We go out to the bar, to the club, right? To get drinks. We post up. We chill. We talk sports, whatever, and then go our ways. Now you meet a female who also likes to talk sports and whatever, and like to drink. Are you gonna hang out with her at the bar all night and shut it down with her, or you know what I'm saying? Would she not be your friend like that?
Nah, you wouldn't do that because, like I said, based on the world we live in, based on nature, you know, me and you go to the bar, nature obviously isn't going to cause us to go to a different degree. There's not going to be that magnetic attraction there. Whereas with a man and a woman, there's always going to be that in some capacity. You could say, okay, well, I don't want to go there with that person because I know I'm not really feeling them like that. But, like, for example, if someone's not pretty to you, but you guys can connect as friends, just that time that you spend with them is going to develop some sort of, wow, well, they're kind of cool, you know, like you'll start feeling them in a different way. And then that face value beauty isn't going to be as important as how you guys feel when you guys, you know, hook up and hang out. So I think inevitably, you know, the chances of you going to a different level is there. It's just there. You know what I mean?
Right. And on that note, I'm gonna come back because you know, we need to get into the muddy waters, as my man Red may tell you.
Superman lover.
True indeed. We're gonna come back with the second segment in a moment. It's how to spot an inauthentic friendship, and then we're gonna get into all the ins and outs of the sexual attraction and everything else that comes with this degree. So think about what we said. Of course, go ahead and post some of your ideas on our social media site. We'll be back in a moment. Peace.
Peace.
So, let's see. Segment 2.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Peace. Welcome back to the Knowledge Yourself radio show. My name is Teray Allah.
Peace. Jackie Naj Allah.
Peace, Jabulullah.
So, what we were talking about the first segment was, the nature of friendships that exist between heterosexual men and women, but more importantly, just kind of defining what a friendship is and also what it is not. So now, for this segment, I wanted to start it off because we are talking about what an inauthentic friendship is between heterosexual men and women, or just men and women in general. I wanted to hit you all with a quote that was published by feministcurrent.com. I'm not a feminist, but for the most part, the heading basically has a lot to do with some research, and they give a really simple statement. Researchers have found that men's friendships with the opposite sex are driven by sexual attraction, regardless of whether they are single. So, I think for the most part, and I'll share another statistic or two before the show ends, and I know we all have something to share with that. But from just what I was studying, men are commonly the ones who pursue friendships with women, but those friendships are inauthentic. It's not a friendship that's laid on a foundation of, at least how I defined it, mutual trust. Right. And just the fact that you're another being, right? And I think that we connect on a professional level or on a level of, some clean and open and well publicized interest. Right, you know what I mean? Right. So, in saying that, why don't we go ahead and get into, the rest of the discussion. The thing that I think is good for us to discuss is, being 5%ers. And this is like a really tumultuous sort of conversation that could take place between, gods mainly, but gods and earth. This would be interesting if we could get a forum. But we're basically told, it has been publicized, and at least this has been, for the most part, how shall I say, that sort of unspoken rule that we're not to teach women in terms of 120 lessons. We're not to teach women 120 lessons unless we plan on building a companionship, a permanent companionship with them in terms of marriage, in terms of a long-lasting permanent relationship. So I think that's good for us to kind of bring to the forefront. I mean, how does everybody feel about teaching a woman who wants this knowledge? And can you teach a woman this knowledge without it turning into something else? Is that possible? Who's done it? Who's doing it? What have you all heard?
You know what, God? I'll say that you should definitely teach a woman, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to teach her to be your woman. You just need to teach her how to be a better woman. You know what I'm saying? In the same way that we know that she's symbolic to the moon, right? So she's going to reflect your light, or, you know what I'm saying, a lot of things that you're saying and doing. So within teaching her, you're going to be able to see a lot within yourself. You know what I'm saying? And that is really a friendship, right? In the sense that now you both get to learn from each other. So I would say, yeah, man, it's not as long as you keep it on that basis of that you were the student, I mean, she's the student and you were the teacher, and you guys have a brother-sistership together, right? And that's where that ends, you know what I mean? Because really, I would say, even if you're teaching her and you plan on making her your earth, your teaching is going to be a little bit biased, you know what I'm saying? And so you might not teach her properly, you know what I'm saying? Because you're going in with other intention, you know what I'm saying? So you should just teach someone your duty is to make knowledge born, right? Simple. So whether you're a female hanging around me or you're a male hanging around me, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to teach you. And whether that's teaching you 120 or just teaching you, you know what I'm saying, simple things in life. You know what I'm saying? We're supposed to teach the science to everything in life. So you know, that would go for 120 or just everything else in general.
Mhm.
Hmm.
All right. I like to hear from Jeru.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
I mean-
confused on this
I
one.
mean,
I'm
he
like,
was
that's
pondering
good.
on that like a true monk.
No, that's definitely some great points. I just like I said, I always try to take it back to nature, right? And certain things occur when you spend time with the opposite sex.
Mhm.
The more time you spend, the more connected you become, and inevitably could possibly lead to certain things.
Mm.
who has
Obviously,
sisters in here?
I have one sister.
You spend some time with your sister?
Yes,
Kinda
when
close
time
with your
permits.
Kind of close with your sister?
Mhm.
You don't feel like Father UC King and your sisters, right?
Absolutely.
that's
Because you guys established that. I mean, it's not like there's people who don't do that.
Mm. Right.
Right? So I see what you're saying as far as nature wanting to take its course, and one person has an Audi, the other person has an Indy, and the two go together. Right? It's like Legos. Right? The two ends snap on top of each other. I see that. But when you establish that relationship, then that's that relationship.
I don't think you-
if you don't ever properly establish that relationship, then like the guy was saying earlier, there's that wiggle room, right? If I just approach you on some like, yo, what's up? I'm just a dude who's got a lot of knowledge and I want to tell you something, and I'm nice to you. Yeah, then I can go anywhere with that. I could be your friend. I could be your brother. I could be your man. I could be all those different things. Yeah, but if I walk up in there like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? This is who I am and this is what I want to be to you. Bam. You're a friend. Or, you know what I'm saying? We establish a relationship and I realize, you know what I'm saying, we're kind of close, but I can't be with you. We can be like brothers and sisters. Bam. And then that's all our relationship is going to go to. And then it's up to the person to keep that. And
right, that's where that, you know what I mean?
yeah, but so that's what I'm saying. Someone has to be what's the word I'm looking for? Like secure on that foundation, right? So if
Right.
you're the one, so if I establish to the female, I'm not trying to follow you, king you. You know what I'm saying? I just want to teach you something. I'm only gonna be your brother. Then it's up to me to uphold that relationship. And if she tries to push and prod because she's curious, wants to see if she can. It's up to me to be like, nah, you tripping.
Yeah, that's very true.
Oh, well,
Now-
I mean, no. In that respect, the relationship is over. No, I mean because but before I even say that,
No, I mean,
I
at
don't
those
know if
subtle
did you
hits,
finish?
though.
Did you finish what you were saying? I don't think you finished.
No,
What
I
you
was
were
just
saying, what
simply
was-
saying that, there's certain things that man and woman in each other's presence, especially when there's a connection that's deeper than just physical, causes more of a connection. Like if you're really building on higher sciences and you're connecting mentally, I think that's going to have more of an effect on the coming together than just straight physically. You know what I mean? But I'm not saying that it can't be done. I'm just saying that it's playing with high explosives. That's all I'm saying.
Right. I mean, and this was something that I've asked twice about two different women. Okay. And I'll just say the most current my response to her question, well, can you teach me? And my response to her question was, I'll have to talk that over with my queen to see if it's all right. But more importantly, when it comes to us going over these lessons, if you decide to make this step, and if it has been confirmed that my queen is okay with it, you're gonna have to bring your man, and your man is gonna have to be present when we do that.
What if she doesn't have a man?
No, she does.
Okay.
So in saying that, those are like the parameters of the situation. Now, I can hear a whole bunch of gods in the Love of Law cipher. I shouldn't say a whole bunch, but I know a couple that we're close to that would say, "We already told you not to do that. Okay, I'm not doing anything yet." But what I'm saying is, you know, our concern right now, being in the 21st century, is that we have a lot of original women walking around here today, and they are reflecting the savage nature of the original man. They're not reflecting what is pure and righteous, um, you know, about the original man.
Right.
So at some point, we all have to ask ourselves, well, when are we going to put a stop to it and how?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we can't go about in the 21st century and continue to use 20th century thinking with these lessons. You know what I mean? We know that, and this comes to just being secure in your own manhood and your own identity, and but more importantly, truly understanding what 120 means. At least I could speak for myself that, and this was communicated to the sister that asked me. You know, I can't lie to you. You know what I mean? And I told her straight up front. I said, listen, um, you have to understand that if you decide you want to make this commitment, that I'm just teaching you these lessons. That's it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not interested in you as this, or this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to get confirmation. Do you understand that?
Well, see, you let that foundation down.
Oh
At the
yeah,
beginning,
man.
though.
Oh yeah.
You didn't walk into the relationship already kind of start doing it, and then halfway through kind of try to then begin to define what the parameters of the relationship was about.
Right. Because women for the most part, man. If you really have conversations with them, the one thing they respect about men is when men are upfront. But if men hide what their true intentions are, or for that matter, what's on their mind, um, that's when you become suspect, and that's when it becomes a real problem. You know what I mean? So, in saying that, we do expect to hear from our righteous brothers and sisters about this. I know there is one particular video one of the guys sent me. I want to say peace to him, understanding God. I can't remember the sister's name, but she's been in the nation for many years. You know,
Okay.
since Allah was in the physical, and it's a really interesting build. You know, it makes you think, and for the most part, for some of the guys out there who teach sisters, you know, it may create somewhat of a conflict because the whole point, and you know, I think maybe we should post that. I gotta look for it again. Her whole build. And by the way, she was in Mecca. Okay, so
Okay.
yeah, I mean,
Wow.
you know, she was in the place, and she said that, you know, for the guys out there who are building with women, you know, basically that's a sign that you're trying to draw her up.
Mm.
So why are you teaching a woman when you know it's going to lead to you drawing her up? You know, and so she's adamantly against that, and she
That's
kind
deep.
of walked into that build with, you know, coming from being in the nation for, you know, decades,
Mhm.
since Allah's time, and
Yeah.
being around during that teaching. Nah, that's something you don't do.
Yeah.
So, but you know, at the same time,
That's an interesting perspective.
we
to
got
look at.
we got young girls out here.
Right.
So I mean, because the devil, you know, they continue to teach daily.
Daily. Yeah.
The
That's
devil
what I'm
teaches
saying.
daily.
So
So
it's like
what we gonna wait for?
right. So if we're supposed to be brothers and sisters, I'm not supposed to teach my sister.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so that's what I mean. You have to establish that, and sometimes not everything is for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And there's 85-10 and 5% for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And some people, you know, whether they're going to listen now or later, or not listen at all,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you at least got to make that effort.
And that's the challenge.
But I definitely see her point though,
Mhm.
and that's one thing to think about as far as, and you alluded to that or talked about it too, about that mental connection, right?
Mhm.
Because now you're teaching some of these lessons, and then
I think a lot of these young girls never have fathers, never been around any good black men,
right,
Mhm.
right,
and here you come teaching her, you know, knowledge, wisdom, and you know, helping her get to an understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Quite naturally, it's going to take her to a place that she's never ever been. You know what I mean? So
you're the one who took her there. That's a huge thing.
Exactly.
Right,
That's a
and I
huge
mean,
thing.
but again, it does go back to what type of teacher you are. You know what I mean? If you give the impression that I'm teaching you these particular degrees so that you can use them to learn more about yourself, as opposed to I'm trying to teach you how to get closer to me. That's not what this is all about.
Right.
You know, when
It's
I
a
ask you
knowledge of yourself.
what's today's degree and you giggle, well then, you know, it might, what's so funny? As a teacher, that should be your
Yeah.
response. What's so funny, sister?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because, you know, it depends on everyone's experience.
Yeah,
But that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. But that is part of drawing that foundation and that, you know what I'm saying, definition of what this relationship is. Whereas
Right.
you say, you know, what's today's degree? And she's like, hey, and you're like, oh, you know, you're so cute. Or, you know, that was a cute giggle, right? Let me try that. And you play into that whole, you know, role. That kind of sets the stage for a different thing. And then you become, you know what I'm saying, you lose that whole teacher-student relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's what really that's about, then you kind of need to keep that.
Mm-hmm.
Like in martial arts, you know what I mean? If you train a female and she does some punch right, and just like, oh well, you know, that was a cute attempt or a nice try. You know, you trying to collar her in that way versus be like, what the hell was that? That's not how I told you to throw a punch. And, you know, you establish that. Yeah, I'm not trying to treat you any different than anyone else. I'm giving you knowledge and wisdom, and you need to apply it. This is a serious thing that's happening. That's
Sure,
definitely a
need that.
different scenario.
All right, let's get into it. What are the do's and don'ts of a friendship with a member of the opposite sex? So now we're talking about, you know, our day-to-day, going in, our everyday dealings. So why don't we start with the do's? What are some of the do's in a friendship with a member of the opposite sex? It kind of sounds strange, man. Like, you know, what is it? What are the things that you can do when you have a friendship with a woman, or vice versa when a woman has a friendship with a man? What are some of those things?
We've got to establish the point of the friendship. What are you guys coming together for?
Okay.
You know, you're good at this, I'm good at that. I want to get better at that. How can, you know what I mean, we help each other get better, whatever. You know what I mean? It can't just be, oh, I have a good time around you. It has to be, I think it has to be more, I think it has to be more substance than that. You know?
Right.
That
I have a good time around you. Okay.
Yeah, you know, I would say some things you can do if you're involved with someone else. What you can do is invite the other person, you know what I'm saying, around the three of you. The two of you. Well, however many
Yeah,
cycle,
right.
you know, let me limit you.
Right.
Just because my girl's not down with the whole sister wives thing,
Oh.
doesn't mean that y'all ain't down with
Yeah, that's
the
another
sister
show.
wives thing.
Another show.
Well, you know, the point is that, you know, you're with your significant other and you've got a member of the opposite sex who's a friend. Invite that other person around.
You're saying that that's a do?
Why not? That way it doesn't make it seem more weird. If you're saying that this is a friend and you guys are trying to hang out, then you guys can all hang out together.
Oh boy, that's a challenge right there.
But the thing is, though, if you can't do that,
What's the
then it's not a friendship.
right?
If you can't,
Oh
you know what I mean? If you can't,
man, okay, I'm
And
gonna
that's
have
my
to say
point.
that's a dump. I'm gonna have
And
to say
that's
that
my
is a dump that y'all are saying, because man,
Don't
listen,
bring your friend around your woman so that
Not
she
like-
has some kind of weird thing to think about
Yeah.
you hanging out.
and she
Nah.
knows you have a friend that you would
Nah.
not bring around her.
no, because no, because the thing is, if
You better hide her.
like in my situation, my situation, my queen has met my friend,
Uh-huh.
right? They've met.
Okay.
All right. But for me, there's a level of proximity you have to keep, man.
Well,
you know
why?
what I'm saying? Because what happens? Why? Because what happens is when you have a person that is supposed to be your friend come to your house.
I didn't necessarily say your house. You know,
Oh.
you guys can't go out for drinks together or something, or eat food together.
Because then it becomes,
How do y'all see that? Because you're saying that that's okay.
If you're gonna hang out with someone, why not?
if someone is your friend, then they should be your friend around your black woman. They should be your friend, not around your black. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be like, okay, well, I have to keep one life this way over here.
Right.
and I have to keep this situation over here. I can't let them intertwine because for whatever reason that could cause.
No, but I wouldn't do anything with my friend. You know what I mean? Like my wife and my friend that I don't even do with that friend. I wouldn't do that. I would say that that's a don't, because then even in that situation, that can become or be the springboard into something a little bit more intimate. Because again, we know that women and men, because we not, you know, you got to keep switching roles. Depends on what gender you are when you're watching this. Um, when you're observant of a couple, there are a lot of mixed feelings that come into that situation. And then you find, and you can find yourself in a situation where that particular person that's observing you and your significant other, they're beginning to learn things about you that you haven't revealed to them. And then outside of that sort of connection, we got something to eat, that person may begin to try to emulate what your mate is doing. You know what I mean? So in other words,
But then that person's not really trying to be my friend.
You wouldn't know it though.
Yeah, because
You wouldn't know it.
That establishes why men and women can't be friends. Because you never know.
But how could you not know that she's trying to emulate you know what I'm saying? She's going to want to get a little closer to you. Her tone is going to be a little different. Now, I agree, God, because my black woman will tell me all the time, like, why didn't you smile back at that girl? She was flirting at you. And I was like, first of all, which girl? Because there were like 3 girls standing over there. And I just kind of smiled because they were all looking at me.
Uh-huh.
And she was like, that one, did you see the way that she smiled at you?
Mm-hmm.
Nah, how did she smile at me,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, like, sometimes, but I'm not in a personal space with that person. I mean, that's a lady who works at a store, right? Or, you know, whatever the case may be. Now, if it's someone that I'm in proximity with, I see you at work, or I see you every time I go to the grocery store, or whatever the case is, right? Now I get to interact with you. I'm going to notice your distancing to me, right? Because a friend is going to stand at a certain distance, and if you're trying to be a little bit more than a friend, then you're going to stand at a different distance, right? You're going to talk to me in a different tone than if you would that if you're just trying to be my friend, right? So these are all keys. And so when you start doing these things, I'm going to look at you different, like, yo, why are you doing that?
Right. Right. I mean, you know.
But see, then again, that person wasn't trying to be my friend in the beginning, and she was trying to follow UC King.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, like I said, I never put myself in that position. It's just a certain proximity. You know what I mean? That's just me. Yeah, that's just me. So, did we address the boundaries? Yeah, it's just I gotta make sure I do this because it's gonna be on video.
Hands off that
what
one.
are the boundaries? Did we get into the boundaries of? I think we kind of did. Okay, so here's a question. Since we're talking about boundaries, because this is one of my boundaries.
Okay.
All right, with a female friend, if she has a companion, all right, a boyfriend, a husband, a man in her life, and she asks me something about sex, that's a no-go.
Anything sex related really should be.
Yeah, that's a
Really?
nah.
With a
That's
female friend?
I can't have a conversation like that, man.
You're both adults.
Yeah, I mean, but okay, look.
She doesn't watch HBO late night movies. She doesn't have an internet connection and you know what I'm saying? Hit up some XXX sites or something. Come on now.
Hey, man, you
Like,
know what? I gotta catch myself.
Now I'm not saying that.
No, I'm saying that I can't even say that that's true, man. I just thought about a scenario.
Okay.
All right. Oh man. Okay. So for sake of not creating the picture in case these particular people who are present, I did have a conversation with two ladies, and they both had. Oh man, you killing me on
Y'all brothers, man. Y'all brothers gonna be don't be knocking on my door later, man.
They were, you know, they're all involved. You know what I mean? One's married, the other one was in a relationship, or you know, or is in a relationship, and I mean, women have these interesting ways of consulting people about certain things, and I think the conversation that I had with them was that, the actual physical act of sex is not what creates the excitement. The actual physical act. It is what some people say foreplay, but the other things surrounding it that make it way more fulfilling. So we had this conversation, and I realized, man,
specifically for women, right?
That seems a little personal.
Yeah, that was specifically in reference to women.
How women feel.
Right, because their line of questioning was because they're younger than me. Mm-hmm. So their line of questioning was, I can't even remember.
Were they 7 years younger than you?
I don't even. I can't remember how. But they're way younger than me. So they're adults. So for the most part, it was one of those conversations where it seemed like if I had been on my toes and I would have been thinking, I would have never entered into that conversation with them. Because now I wouldn't. But during that time, it was kind of like, I think I reshaped their whole concept of sexuality, sex, and its purpose just in that conversation.
So what's wrong with that? You taught them something.
No, because then what happens then is in some cases, some women, fortunately, they're mature, and this didn't happen with them, but in some cases, women begin sizing you up when you consult them about sex. Especially if you have a companion. They begin, that's an opportunity for them to size you up.
Well, according to Tyra Banks, as soon as they find out you have a companion, they already size you up. So
go ahead and add on with that. What do you mean, man?
Oh, man, no, just, my black woman was watching this Tyra Banks show, and on the topic of that show was how women tend to want men who are already in relationships. Mm-hmm. And the thinking is that because he's a good man and he treats her good, he would treat me good if I could get him to be in a relationship with me. And so apparently that's the thinking.
Doesn't that go back to having dinner or a drink with your friend and your companion?
No, because at that moment
she's there.
But doesn't that open up the door for what you just said?
No, because she's gonna size me up as soon as she meets me. Yo, Peach, what's your name? Da da da. Okay, I'm Jack Hill. Da da da. Blah blah blah. We're talking. Yeah, I have a family. I have kids. Mm-hmm. Okay, boom. She's already sized me up now. Mm-hmm. You have a family? How long have you had this family for? Your kids are how long? She's already doing the math. Mm-hmm. Supreme math. Right. She's going in. Da da da. He's been with her this year. So she's already going to establish a profile on me. She did that Wi-Fi thing that we were building about in the current event, right? So, boom, she's already populated this whole thing. Mm-hmm. So I'm already sized up. The fact that I have you hanging out with my woman just let you know, like, there's no games and there's no secret. My woman knows about you. So you're either going to be friends with me and my woman. Mm-hmm. Probably I would prefer it more friends with her. Mm-hmm. And you know what I'm saying? I'm just kind of like, hey, what's up? And in between, you're not really kicking it with me. Mm-hmm.
So, to me, it always comes back to what is the point of the friendship? Mm-hmm. If you're engaged in these types of conversation, what's the point of those conversations?
Right.
And would you have these conversations in front of your black women? And
right, about sex, exactly. It just shouldn't be done. That's a don't. Right. I just don't.
So would they be comfortable with that? Do you feel that there's certain things that you can say in front of your black women that you can't? And if that's the case, would you not say those things when building with your friend, say alone or whatnot? There's certain things that you have to obviously weigh, and it's a thin line, man.
All right, so now here's the thing. Those of you, the ladies out there, and I actually I've heard this for many, many years that many women, at some point in their life, it depends on who we're talking to, they may develop a relationship with a homosexual male or a friendship with a homosexual male. And, from what I've been told, just asking women directly, and actually since I teach high school, teenagers have volunteered this information on. Don't ask me how that topic came up. But Oh, I know what it was like for when you allow teenagers to kind of have any dialogue about what creates conflicts. They always say because females are messy. So when they say that females are messy, many of them will say, "See, but that's why I only have male friends because males are not going to do the same thing. Homosexual friends who are males are not going to spread your business all about and also there's no interest there. They're not interested in you.
Right.
So they're more someone that you can confide in. What do you all think is one of the main reasons? And of course, we can't speak from experience, but just sort of,
No, God.
philosophize a little bit about it.
So I went to junior high school.
Why these things happen?
I went to junior high school with this cat, and I'm one of those dudes. I can be friends with anyone, right? So I'm friends with the not cool kids all the way up to like the ultra cool kids. I can swing in any circle. So we get into high school, and like doing like the first week or something of high school, he ends up getting some people trying to jump him in the locker room. There was a fight. I helped him in the fight, whatever. And I was like, "Yo, man, what happened? Like, why were these people? You know what I'm saying? What's the fight about?" "Oh, well, because I'm gay, they said I was looking at them." And I was like, "What? Like, well, when did you become gay?" First of all, but then I started thinking. I was like, "Oh, okay. So that's why you're always hanging out with all these hot females in school." Mm-hmm. And he was like, "Yeah." He was like, "I'm not gonna try to get with them, so they just feel really comfortable hanging around me versus." Hanging around a dude like you. Who, who likes females and is obviously going to have some kind of attraction there. So he was like, it's easier for them to be friends with me in certain degrees than it is to be friends with you because there's no, and not me in specific, I'm saying heterosexual men, because there's no, hey, I want to hook up with you kind of thing.
Right. Now, I want to pass it over to Drew. Like, what is the cause of, our people, women specifically, and also vice versa, man. Why are men also making friends with lesbians? Why are they confiding in them a little bit more? All freakiness aside.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, what other reason would you have?
Right. I think for females, it takes away that tension. That tension of, okay, well, we've never went to that level. There's that little tension that might be underlying that's there. Whereas with a homosexual male, okay, we'll never go there, and it's good. We're good with that. I think on the other hand, for males, when you think about the society we live in, I think a lot of males have some sort of distorted fantasy of lesbians, like they're unicorns or something, or some mystery thing about them where if the time is right and they have a friend, and you know how I ain't even gonna go there, but
right,
we all know. We all know,
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's two different type of situations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's a loss of confidence in men. I'm specifically talking about when women develop friendships with homosexual men. For the most part, our job is to personify masculinity, but more importantly, we are supposed to be the best examples of manhood.
Mm-hmm.
And this goes full circle. We can debate it. If you're a man and you can't be a friend to a woman, and you're heterosexual, regardless of what the whole overarching meaning is, that does show a sense of weakness. More than that, it shows a lack of trust within yourself. You should be able to relate to all types of people. You know what I mean? Without it overstepping that boundary. So women basically, when they say, well, my only friends are homosexual males, I don't mess around with women, then that's also a weakness on part of our black women. They're also suffering from a loss of identity, which is why they can't seem to develop healthy and maintain healthy relationships with other females or other women, it's because there's a loss of identity and there's definitely a crisis between original people. I'm not saying that, we're casting out homosexual populations or anything like that. What I'm saying is that you should be able to turn to a man if you're a woman and get some feedback about something without that man making any type of sexual advances toward you. I mean, we're talking about men like, yes, I'm going to answer that question. Here's my answer.
Yeah. Right.
It's a family show.
All right.
Want to add on to that? Or anyone else?
We'll come back after a break.
Peace.
Peace.
Hey.
Sorry, didn't think you guys did
this. Did she see the one with the... Right.
I'm just a lost cause. Yes, I am. Like a maniac locked behind four walls. Oh, I was a fool when I ran around. Yes, I was, baby. So I'm back home begging, please don't put me down.
Peace. Welcome back to the Knowledge Yourself radio show. My name is Teray Allah.
Peace. Junkyard Knowledge Allah.
Peace. Rule Allah.
And our second segment, again, we talked a little bit about what inauthentic friendships were and some of the boundaries that exist. But more importantly, if you're a man or if you're a woman, can you really develop a really strong and healthy relationship with someone without it turning into something else? Now that brings us to our next discussion, which is savory equality unknown. So in our culture, that's classified, or it is, sex. So, it was told to me by one of my female friends that when you have sex with a person, your friendship is over. So, I would be the first one to say, man, if sex enters into a friendship, this is no longer a friendship. So I want to kind of pass that around.
Well, it's funny because, I was looking at the Scientific American study where they tested, I think it was like 88 friends, half female, half male. And the results were that the majority of the males had some sort of underlying attraction for the females.
Mm.
So I think once sex becomes a part of the equation, I think probably the roles switch, because the study also revealed that most of the females weren't attracted to the males in that fashion.
Mm.
But I would say once sex comes in the equation, maybe the males won't be so drawn and attracted from an attractive standpoint, but the females will be because of the emotional attachment of sex.
Mm.
So I think either way, it's all bad.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know,
I heard him saying over here.
things that make you go, It's just yeah. You know, I would say, honestly, the best person that you could probably have sex with is a friend.
Mm.
And that's because you guys have developed a certain level of knowing each other,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying, to where you can really be comfortable enough to really enjoy sex, as opposed to having to be on some like, I gotta make sure I perform a certain way. You know what I mean? It could be like, it'll be the difference between Jordan playing the game just because he's gonna play,
Mhm.
versus playing the game because he's playing in the NBA and they're paying him X amount of millions of dollars, and he's Michael Jordan.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm sure his movements would be a lot looser, and you know what I'm saying, the things he'll do would be more. If you were to watch him, you'd be like, yo, that's kind of out of character for you. But that'd really be him in character,
Mhm.
versus him having to kind of perform a certain way because he's in a certain arena. You know what I'm saying? Or he's like feels like he's in a certain arena. You know what I mean? So that'd be the same thing with having sex with someone. I mean, personally, my understanding of sex is a little different, right? So, so when you have sex with someone, you're really interexchanging and intertwining your energies together.
Mhm.
And I personally don't necessarily want to just do that with anyone
Mhm.
or everyone, right? So, who else better to do that with than a friend, right? Someone that you already kind of learned and know who they are and what they're about, what they're into.
So then it's no longer friendship once that goes down.
Right.
I wouldn't say it's no longer
Oh
friendship.
no, it's no longer a friendship.
It's much more. It has to
Right.
be
And then
much
here
more.
goes the question.
So what is the point
When
of
you-
friendship? It comes back to that again.
Well, did you become, for both of you, did you become friends with your woman before you had sex with her?
It only takes a minute to become a friend.
Okay.
Mhm.
So then the answer would be yes.
Not for me.
No.
Okay.
No. It takes for me, for someone to really become a friend, it takes a lot of time. It has to take. For me, a friend is someone you've struggled with for a little bit.
Mhm.
They've been there when things were crazy, and you could see how they interact with you in those types of circumstances. I think the term friend gets thrown around too loosely.
Mhm.
Okay.
I think that there's much more of a foundation to friendship that comes with time
Mhm.
and really knowing that person in and out.
Right.
And I don't think, with a lot of times in relationships, when you're building that in this courting, I don't think you get that true depiction of a person. You get that representative. They're showing you all the good qualities, kind of like the bag of chips with the no trans fat on the front. But you don't really see who they are until time passes. So I think when we look at it that way, for me, I think friendship takes a lot more.
Mhm.
So it comes back to the point of the friendship in the first place. If we're about building each other up, one could say sexual relations could be considered or deemed as such, but to me, I don't think it is. You know what I mean? That's something that should be, a special connection between two people who are progressively trying to build man, woman, and child, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding.
Right, so
So
now
how
can
could you
we-
do that with someone? Oh man, this might
Well,
have to be a part two.
well,
So
let's-
how are you going to build that kind of relationship with someone who's not a friend?
Well, I mean,
And for you, how did,
before I answer that,
Uh-huh.
I would like to throw into the cipher in terms of what is a friend with benefits, because my understanding is having sex with a friend would come under that umbrella.
As a benefit.
as a friend with the benefit. So friend with benefits, on the nasty social media level, is like, yes, if you need certain things financially, that friend is going to provide them to you. If
That'd
you
be a
need
benefit.
something emotionally or physically, that friend is going to provide it to you, whether or not you have a companion or not, a woman or not, or a man or not. That's where it all comes from. At least that's where how it's been explained and presented through social media. So, in saying that, what you're saying, if I understand correctly, is that a sexual relationship doesn't interfere with a true friendship.
Right.
Okay. So, my response to that is basically, no. I mean, like my friend said, once you have sex with a friend, that friendship is over, because then it takes a new step. You know what I mean? And I don't. I mean, I don't know what the studies are out there, but I think one of two things happens when that goes down between friends. Either it destroys a friendship, or that particular thing intensifies and becomes those attracting magnets, and then it begins to show that, hey, we're actually a couple now. You know what I mean? So I think it's one of those explosive things, man. It's real dangerous. Like if I allowed a friend, I'm talking about being a single man. I'm speaking from
Yeah,
that
for
perspective.
sure.
We all are. If I are a single man and you're my friend, in the back of my mind, I'm not thinking how I'm gonna get it. I'm just not, because I guess it's sort of a mental thing for me, but I'm able to find something within my friends. This might hurt their feelings, but that's cool. I always find within my friends, I find something that is unattractive about them. And that is really that switch, that sexual switch that can pop up. You saw me do that. But that sexual switch, right? Yeah, I want to make sure that sexual switch stays turned off, so to speak. You know what I mean? So, how you see it, guy? Because
I like that. No, guys, see, so what I mean by that is person A and person B went down this road of friendship, right? Or friendship, right? So they're on the same ship together, we're selling the same direction, right? Through the course of this friendship, you develop so tight of a bond that you think, okay, well, let's add a different or another element to our friendship. Right? We're not getting off of this ship and then getting onto another ship. We're just adding on to this ship.
That's curiosity, then.
No.
I think that's just pure curiosity.
No, because
what would it be like?
Because in the beginning, when you meet someone, you already know, like, there's a part of you that's like curious about.
Right.
Okay,
so
well,
now you have to say, okay, am I just trying to follow UC King, this person, or am I actually trying to develop a relationship? And in developing a relationship, you should also develop a friendship, because how are you going to relate to someone that you're not friends with?
But I think there should be three then, because it should be Father UC King, relationship, friendship. Because
I would say relationship and a friendship are one and the same. You can't have one without the other.
but if you're going to develop more with a person, like, than just what Teray is building about as it relates to how he deals with his friends, then in your mind you already know that potentially that person is someone that you could see yourself, becoming your black woman or your earth or your wife.
Maybe
or
not,
whatever.
and that's why you need to get to know that person. So that's why you develop down the road of friendship. Because through that road of friendship, you might be like, you know what? It's time for a damn mutiny. I need to kick your ass off the ship.
Yeah, see,
Or I need
me-
to jump boat myself, right?
Right.
Like, yo, I'm not even gonna kick you off your ship. You can keep the ship and everything on the ship. I'm gonna hop on this little tiny boat and I'm gonna just row until I find
Yeah.
another ship that I can hop on, because the hell with this ship.
Yeah, like I know right away. If I meet a girl, I already know. Like, okay,
Well, I mean, you know, like you said, God, when you initially meet someone, everyone sends out that representative. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's not until, and in fact, they call it the infatuation period, right? So it's that's like that 3 months, 3 to 6 months. Some people go through a long time, of where that person can never do anything wrong and everything about that person is perfect, right? And then one day you wake up in the bed and you're like, damn, you know, you snoring really bothers me.
okay.
Or
So
the
hold
fact
on.
that, you know,
Slow that back.
folding
Slow
your
that back.
clothes
Pause that for a
really
second.
bothers me.
So
You know what I'm saying? That's when people decide they want to be in a relationship.
Okay,
right?
okay,
But so when they do all that without having pushed a friendship, right? Then you wake up in these situations to where you're like, damn, these things that you do really bother me. And I wish I really would have took the time to figure that out before I got stuck in this relationship with you. And that's because they're in a relationship with no friendship. You ask those people, they don't necessarily know those things about each other. They're learning about each other as they're also trying to build.
So in essence,
A
you're saying
relationship.
courting and friendship are one and the same.
If you see that you're gonna try to, I see a female, and I'm like, okay, you know, she meets my visual qualifications. Right?
You her visual qualification.
That's got to be part of it, right? I mean, because that's the first thing. The first thing I'm not seeing about her is how swift she is with mathematics and history, right, or technology. The first thing I'm seeing about her is how she looks and carries herself. All right, so if you meet that qualification, cool. Now we can move to the next step. Who are you as a person, right? So I need to develop some kind of relationship with you. So yeah, when I'm taking you out on dates, I'm not just taking you out on dates so that you can be my girlfriend, right? Because again, in this day, especially in this day and age, that's as simple as just being like, "Yo, you want to be my girlfriend?" And, okay, sure, right? And but so now I'm stuck in this thing where I'm learning about this girl as I'm also calling her my girlfriend, right? And then you get stuck in those situations to where you're like, "Damn, these things that you do really bother me." Right? Or the way that you don't do this really bothers me. How come I didn't know that before? Well, damn, it's because you were learning all that at the same time.
Yeah.
So why don't I just take that time? Like, okay, if I want to be with you, right? Let's first be friends and see if I like you first as a friend. Because if I don't like you as a friend, how am I going to like you as someone who's going to be my black woman, right, on my earth?
Right.
That's
Okay.
not
So,
even
now,
possible.
so now I understand what you're saying, because in essence, it's challenging to have a really good relationship with a person if you didn't try the friendship trial first, man. Because there's so many things that you don't know about a person, and you don't want to discover those things
On the fly.
when you have that companionship.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
at the same time, man, I'm gonna put it out there, and a lot of women are gonna be mad at this statement, but man, a lot of friendships that men and women tend to have with each other, man, they're fake on someone's part. Someone is holding back certain feelings from that
That's the
person.
bottom line.
But in one of the studies that I was looking at, it said that for the most part, when men revealed, like when women, when they have a friendship with men, because men are generally the perpetrators, man. We're the ones that destroy the friendship with women by saying like, "This is how I feel about you," and then you express some sort of intimate feeling for that person. Most women, if you're a friend to a woman right now, men, if you just kind of open it up and just say, I'm really into you, you're going to destroy the friendship. 9 times out of 10, because they don't want to enter into a situation like that with you. Because women generally, they know if they want a man as soon as they meet him.
And that's my point. Like, I think there's a difference between friendship and courting. Courting means that eventually, if things go right, we develop a connection enough, we could see each other going into the relationship phase. Where friendship is still something that needs to be cultivated, but we know and understand that this is the degree of which, or the level that we're going to stay at. We're not going outside of that. You know what I mean? And I think the line is so fine, that's where the high explosives comes into play. because where you could be saying, well, she's cool as a friend one day, the next day that could be turning to courting based on like one exchange. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it's just trouble. It's trouble.
Well, I would say you would need to have a little bit more than just one exchange. You know what I mean? Than to figure out, okay, I think I like this girl. 'Cause then
No,
you
I'm not
sort of run
saying
around
that.
being like, oh, I like every girl.
No,
Which
I'm not
just
saying.
seems to, according to the study, seems to be the issue, right?
No,
Dudes,
yeah. No, I wasn't
the girl
saying
waves
that.
at you or she winks at you and you're like, oh, she likes me.
Yeah, no, I wasn't saying that. I was saying we could have been friends for 2 months, and
Mhm.
then one night we hang out, and then something happens that turns that friendship into me or her trying to court each other.
And then what's wrong with that?
It wasn't a friendship then.
Right.
Why
I
wasn't
mean,
it? Because now it's just going deeper. Okay, the same way that when you first initially meet someone, you know what I mean? And that's male or female. That person isn't coming over to your house and putting their feet up on the couch and opening up your refrigerator, right? That's something that developed over time. You guys got to know each other. They came over once, they came over twice, they were cool, they came over another time. You were like, yeah, man, go in the refrigerator. Or, you know, yeah, female, whatever, go in the refrigerator. Or go, you know, whatever, my house, your house, right? But that happened over time. So the point to that is that a friendship that develops into someone that you end up dating should just be a deeper friendship. You know what I mean? That's where all those other friendships stop short of, and this is the one person that you can relate to on a me and you, we're just gonna be a one thing.
Mhm.
And these are my friends, and they're all great friends, but there's something different between you and all those other people that I call friends. And that's why me and you are going forward together on this relationship. And everyone else is still stuck on the friendship.
Man, I mean, this sounds like
Yeah.
a sequel. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
in essence, I'm just gonna add on, man, because I know we're coming into the closing, but I do want to say that if you want to test whether or not, and this goes out to men and women, if you want to test out whether or not you have a true and genuine friendship with a member of the opposite sex, think about this. If your friend said, hey, I'm really attracted to her, or I'm really attracted to him, can you introduce me to them? If you have no feelings and no hesitation about that whatsoever, you say, oh yeah, hey, come on over here. I want you
Right.
to meet somebody, Robert, or whatever, you know, whatever the scenario is. If you being the one in that situation where your friend
I like that.
says they want you to introduce them to whoever that person is, and you have no feelings about it whatsoever, you're more than likely a true friend. But if you say, no.
You don't want to do that. So and so is a player.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not based on, because really, I mean, again, we're talking about a friend is trusting. Now, would you set your friend up with a dog or with I mean, dogs, it could be any sex. Would you set them up with a dog? Would you set them up with someone that you know is going to mess around on them?
Right.
Because, you know, being a friend, there has to be some trust there, right?
No doubt.
But at the same time, I think in friendship there has to be some freedom as well, man. And that's that. I think that's the cold thing about friendship is like you got to give them their freedom because they're gonna do it with you or without you anyway. But at the same time, you don't want to feel like you're setting up your friend.
Well,
that's a hard one.
Ezekiel 3:18. That's all you can do.
True indeed.
Yeah.
That's a good way to move into the review. Do you want to add on?
yeah, no, that's great.
True indeed. So we have our read, view, and do. What do we come up with as far as reading?
I would say just read your so-called friend of of the opposite sex and determine if it's truly a friendship or is there some underlying tension that hasn't been explored quite yet.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's truly a friendship, then keep building. If not, then you know you have to destroy it. Otherwise, it's going to lead to trouble.
For view, we have When Harry Met Sally. So that's a great flick from like the early 90s. Yes, check that out.
Oh, and also I threw, this is last minute, check out Love Jones.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's how things can. That's when you're dealing with high explosives right there. Check that out. For the do, avoid watching daytime talk shows for the answers to your problems in relationships. And be careful with that social media, man. You guys be real. You ladies be real. So, I like to thank my brothers here as always. It's always beautiful coming here to build. We like to thank you, the listeners, or the viewers. And we encourage you to, by all means, communicate with us on Facebook or Twitter. If you want to propose topics, something else you want to build on, or you want a sequel or trilogy of something, by all means, let us know. I'd like to say peace. Hopefully, we'll see you all next week. Peace.
Indeed.
Peace.
Fun show, man.
Got the slogan.
Want to come back? Oh, by the way.
You forgot to say that.